I'm inviting you to a workshop where you work on you. Welcome to Clarity Dojo. Work to connect to the best in the world to get clarity. Head over to claritydojo.com. You'll get the latest research techniques, examples, and it takes all of the guesswork out of which questions to ask in order to get the best insight. Get clarity and take action today. Justin O'Donnell, thank you so much for jumping on the call with me tonight. I really appreciate you, connecting.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So, just a little background for the audience. Justin is a former student of mine. I teach television production and photography at a local high school, and Justin was one of my best students of all time. You're a rock star, a legend, and a legacy. We have when a student gets to the point where they have style in what they're doing, that's a long way to go. And some people just have it and have the eye. And Justin, you kind of have that eye. You have a great eye for design. You have a great eye. The type of guy who shows up early and stays late. Somebody I would definitely hire if I had ever had to put a team together. So, again, thanks for jumping on the call.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
And the purpose of this podcast is to help students pretty much like all over the country. I'm trying to broadcast this a bit. In the education system, I catch wind of a lot of people going off to their degree or, coming to me with a strong, I want to do this. And a lot of times, here's a for instance, I catch a lot of people who want to make video games, for instance. I'm in a media class. I have a lot of gamers that come in. And my first question is, what programming languages are you learning right now? What type of, are you in the design side? And I get kind of like a blank stare. It also stems from my personal story. I wanted to be an architectural engineer, 5 years old, playing with Legos, telling people I want to be an architectural engineer. I went to a college. I got a great scholarship, and they didn't offer architecture at all. And we didn't have an internet connection. It was like dial-up back then. My first year at college, we had our first cable connection, and you were starting to be able to see websites. But the ability to connect today's day and age is astounding. And there's a couple of easy search tools where you can find people who are doing the exact thing that you want to do, and sometimes the best in the world that do the thing that you want to do, and then have a quick chat with them. So I'm going to kind of model that conversation towards the end of our of the podcast tonight, what questions that I asked. So I'm going to try to kind of run the same questions with every one of the podcasts. Okay. But your situation is interesting. So this is something where I think that there's some insight, and we're going to kind of dig into where you are in life right now. So you graduated with a BFA in filmmaking, correct? Is that
correct?
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm going to feature in the show notes another one of our one of my former students, Talon Lauriello. You guys work together at the college, still currently.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. And
he kind of did a documentary of sorts for his class on your career change. So you're making a career change from film to what?
At the moment, I'm considering going into urban planning. I'm sort of in a transitory period at the moment. I'm not 100% locked down on it, but that is currently the direction I'm moving in.
Okay. So that's exciting, and I love it. I'm pumped for you. I know that's it's a good choice, and I'm interested to kind of dive in how that decision came about. So in watching the documentary that Talon made, I just kind of grabbed a couple questions. So I guess right off the bat, you're kind of changing direction, switching from film, cameras in this visual medium, to urban planning. Can you discuss the inspiration for the transition?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's sort of been two different parts that have been moving on their own, which has been, it's sort of been a decline in interest in filmmaking and sort of a rise and sort of a different application of my design experience. Um, Earlier, you were saying that you could tell that a student was really uh, far along and really doing well in media if you could sort of make out like style within their work or something that is individualistic about it or unique. And that is something that I definitely even took to heart at the time. I was always trying to find out what I could do differently, how I could apply some of the techniques that people whose work I admired, how I could apply them to my own work. Um, and when I when I went over to film school, it started to become pretty clear to me pretty fast that film is a far more collaborative medium than a lot of the work that we were doing for Shawnee TV and within your classes. And it became very challenging to sort of have a lot of those elements of, style, not get sort of diluted by the efforts of a 15 to 20 person crew. What I really tried to start pushing into doing was um, sort of making the things that I want to push myself forward with. I sort of wanted them to be more along the lines of writing and more more on the conceptual side of the piece as opposed to like the visual elements, which I feel were a pretty large focus for me while I was at Shawnee TV, was experimenting with types of cinematography and motion design and color grading and whatnot. And I sort of really tried to experiment more with creating unique stories and short films, as my filmmaking program required us to essentially produce our own project every year. And so really what I wanted to do was I want to create films that I've never seen before. And I don't think anyone else has seen before. And I do think that I sort of have a unique perspective as someone who honestly has not seen as many movies as many filmmakers have, and I don't really come from the same background. So I sort of really tried to incorporate a lot of things that were interesting to me at the time. I played a lot of like tabletop fantasy board games and sort of started reading a lot of H.P. Lovecraft and things like that. And so I really tried to, essentially my focus sort of became, and with a lot of my films, was taking like the supernatural and then sort of trying to spin it in a way that reflects contemporary issues that young people face.
Okay.
Maybe I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but
I understand where you're going though.
yeah. And besides the fact that producing all these films was very costly financially, the act of being in that producer role of arranging shoot dates and schedules and hiring crew and cast, getting props and property and securing rights to locations and music and all of that. It sort of really made me realize as time went on that not really sure if that's the way I want to keep going with my career. The act of sort of freelancing in that regard, and really essentially hustling to find your next job all of the time, sort of really started to dawn on me as being something that I couldn't really gel with. I sort of really started to feel like I needed to do something with a little bit more stability. And so by the time I was finishing out the filmmaking program last year, I sort of really was starting to see where I could set my sights to somewhere else, but still apply a lot of the passion for design and visual aesthetics and whatnot in a way that would be meaningful. During my time at college, I also sort of became a lot more aware and educated about issues of social inequity and I don't want to say politics, but sort of the contemporary issues that face marginalized groups, things regarding housing and climate change, and sort of a lot of things that a lot of college students sort of become more aware of while they're receiving a liberal arts education. So as I was sort of setting my sights towards new horizons, I sort of realized that one way that I could potentially have a impact on things like affordable housing or transportation within urban areas and issues facing those things, sort of felt that potentially urban planning could be an interesting way of sort of stretching my design sensibilities, because they've always sort of been more in the visual realm, more in the land of aesthetics. And I'm sort of wondering if there are ways that, that could be used to change the way that systems within our government or systems within our society could better impact everybody. So at the moment, I'm currently in the process of researching some urban planning graduate programs.
I love it.
Yeah.
So maybe the methods that I'm covering in my mentor connection program might apply to your current situation. How are you researching? Have you been? Let me just ask it this way: have you spoken with urban planners who do it really well?
Unfortunately, I have not yet, and I know that's something that you would totally recommend I do.
So yeah, I mean, I'll throw you the tools that we have in the course. I'm launching the course tonight. I had to kind of switch learning management program within WordPress, but it's going to be a free course, and it's just like a list of questions. But I think what the most important thing is. Are you on LinkedIn? I'm assuming so, yes.
You would actually be assuming wrong. I'm not on LinkedIn, and I very much should get on it.
Okay. So,
yeah. Number
one, just by doing all this research, LinkedIn has an amazing tutorial set of here's how to get rolling. And, here's the true function of the platform. So, like, if you, once you set up a profile, your keywords on your profile help the algorithm feed you connection. So like if you're in the urban planning thing, what's recommended is go to urban planners, find out their career path down their resume, start using those keywords in your language on your page, and then also connect with them so you understand kind of what to do and what not to do. Yeah. So that's the whole theory behind this workshop that I'm putting together. I kind of branding it career clarity is, talking to somebody who's doing it, a year out of school, talking to somebody, well, let's step back, talking to somebody who's in the school that you want to go to, talking to somebody that's a year out. So they got the degree, they're in the field, they got a gig, what's it like, what's the 8-hour day like? And then the 3 or 5 year out, established, are they still sticking with it? Like you want to find people maybe who haven't and talk to them. You want to maybe find people who stuck with it and they're in it for the long haul. What's their mental? Like what do they value and what does the industry need? And then who's the rock star? Who's the cream of the crop? And then how can you connect with them? So I'm going to kind of roll the questions a little bit later. I have a couple follow-ups to some of the things that you were saying. I guess one of them is where do you think that there could have been a sooner path to swapping out of the direction? So like, is there any, or do you think if you would have maybe did what we just discussed, like connected with people in the film program, and we have a lot of like alums that go to the same university that you're at, and you probably had a couple of those conversations. I don't know how many we had that were like graduated and going with a degree, but what do you think? Do you think that there could have been a shorter path to the urban planning decision?
Potentially. The filmmaking program was very, very rigorous, and it ended up consuming a lot of my time and energy. And it didn't help that there were a couple of scheduling mishaps that caused me to really be juggling more projects than the program would have even intended at one time. I'm talking screenwriting for a film to be produced during that same semester, while also screenwriting for a film to be produced the following year, or following semester, sorry. Is a bit of a crazy process. And of course, that sort of led to a landslide effect where that project that you wrote for the following semester is not really something that you want to produce and put your name on. So that cycle sort of continuously repeated and ended up sort of being really time consuming. And of course, all of this was on top of our obligation to be there for our peers, networking and working on their own projects as below the line or above the line crew. So it was, on one hand, yes, of course, I would have loved to have made this shift sooner so that I could have potentially have gone to grad school this past September. But unfortunately, it wasn't really a decision that I had gotten around to making quite yet, just because I was working quite hard to make sure that I could graduate on time.
Sure. There is this kind of college, you get sucked into the patterns of the program, and there isn't. It'd be great if you had a second shot at it. Things, and you're sometimes the way that things are structured, especially in the creative world, things go haywire, and you need the time to get it right before you can act on next steps. So I do remember that from my college days, and I did a lot of short film gigging. I was mostly post-production sound oriented. That's where I wanted to be, but I was on sets a lot. So I guess, I don't know, like, how about this question? If you were to, have had like two rock star scripts that you were in love with and produced them, what do you feel like it's the the gigging nature of it thereafter? Like what's the outlook for a filmmaker, I guess, that doesn't, is there a shortcut to a lucrative, more stable path for a filmmaker?
Honestly, I sort of feel that if a filmmaker is coming out of high school and they're interested in getting into the industry, you could very likely get by without going to film school. I'd say definitely 75% of the stuff that I learned on set outside of class during the weekend, sort of dealing with the hour to hour problems that come up on a film set and learning how to react to them and take care of them accordingly. There were some helpful things that you will definitely learn in film school. A lot of above the line work, you'll definitely learn from there. But if you're looking to go somewhere below the line, honestly, I would I would definitely find another way.
Yeah. Let's not like be bashful about this. I mean,
Yeah.
I teach the subject, and I'm sending people in that direction. I've been on indie sets, and I've also seen the commercial side of things. And honestly, like what we're doing right now, and the people who iterate, like you're a churner, you're a guy that can churn content, you're a guy that can conceptualize and then go. If you turn that with an entrepreneur spirit into branding and marketing and selling an idea, and like this idea, I believe so passionately, like it can't fail. I mean, if people connect with people in the way that we're describing, you're going to act on better intel, and you're just going to be making better decisions. It's worth how much was your degree? And I don't want you to answer that, but like how much does it cost before you have that sink in, and then can you convince yourself ahead of time to making that research a priority when you're a 16-year-old kid. You're just trying to find your way and like make some friends and like break out the parent situation. I think that's like, I just don't feel that people are ready to make the decision 16, 17 years old, sophomore.
I agree.
I don't think that the current infrastructure of like, go ahead guys, go off, and you need a college degree because most of the jobs are there, and like the way that the infrastructure of the public education system, like you can't deny the statistics of getting a degree and what the trajectory looks like. There's actually some interesting math on a couple different websites that I wrote into one of the articles, but besides that, what is missing is this connection. Like I didn't have it. It's still not happening. You look at the Sir Ken Robinson TED Talks where, the public education system is designed for, industrial revolution times, and, we're in an information society. We have the connections, and man, the kids are like this all day long with the phones. So just taking that one step further, and let's like start courses where
send a message, send a message to somebody.
Yeah, like start talking to these people that are doing the thing that you want to do. Johnny wannabe, gamer. I got a buddy from high school who was on the Halo team. Let's go call him. And a very small percentage of those folks are taking me up on that offer. So like I'm trying to figure out the psychology of like, how do we get there faster? How do we get a little bit more, maybe, I don't know if it's maturity or motivation in making that decision, or how can you understand it maybe from the logical perspective of cost at a time, and then how would you justify those two? So from a logical perspective, it's unarguable, and then I guess from a passion or an emotional perspective, you're connecting with people like I would think that you would be excited to connect to. And so I think that there's like such a chemistry in, being able to have the technical know-how, like you yourself, and the personality, you get along with everyone. So being able to combine, all right, I know tech, I know camera, I know message, I know how to combine all those things. And I can interview, and I can schedule interviews. So how hard would it be to schedule, over the course of a month, 3 to 5 Skype interviews that you record, and now you have a portfolio that you would be able to walk into your graduate school or a gig and say, look, I already talked to, 10 people in the industry, and, these 5 are, I think, the best. And then here's where their insight is saying, this is what the industry needs, and here's what I've done about it, and here's my portfolio that showcases what I'm planning to do for your company. Or starting your own message, like, it sounds like you want to change, urban planning gives you, that, or filmmaking gives you the potential to produce something that nobody's ever seen, and maybe give them a gift and help them a little bit, change them a little bit. So, I think all that combined, you're in such a great position. I'm hoping that people that watch this can say, all right, well, here's a really talented guy, and he's like right in the middle of like making a new decision. And he's already come a long way, and he has all this like skill, and guys, I can't, like, I'm going to have to try to cut in some of Justin's work from high school, and I'd love to see your college work portfolio wise. Like,
I can send links.
It's pro. I mean, it's like no lie, some of the best work that I've seen. So, somebody with that much potential, and then now like branching into a new direction, I think that a little bit of this like clarity planning of just connecting with a couple people who are doing the thing will take you in that direction.
Sure.
With a little bit of a lot more clarity and a way less cost. So
I mean, I was going to say earlier, what would you suggest to people who were really wanted to get into filmmaking and want to avoid film school? Honestly, I'd say if you live near a college or a university that has a filmmaking program, try to talk to students who are in that program, ask them what projects they're doing, and try to get in on set. If you're trying to work below the line, if you want to be a DP eventually, try and become a best boy or something, or even gaff if you can, and just get on set. Because that's essentially what I paid all my college tuition for, was just to go on some sets. And then in class, I learned a little bit about how to make a call sheet. Honestly, if I wanted to go back and keep doing filmmaking, that's what I would suggest to people. There were people who went for 1 year, they went for their freshman year, then they dropped out because they were able to get enough work already, but they would still come back and get more experience by working on these student sets and shooting their films for them. So they were still getting the same thing, but they didn't have to pay the university anymore. Right. Like, I would absolutely recommend that, honestly, if, to any people who are at Shawnee and wanted to weigh their options and were heavily considering getting into film, that would be my suggestion. Give it a year, see if you can do it in a year. And, at that point, maybe try something else, maybe go to university. But I would definitely try that if I were back in that position.
Yeah, that's great advice. And guys, I can't stress enough how talented the dude that is giving that advice is. And I know that there's a lot of people that come through our program that that are still getting there, that don't have that that special sauce yet. And it is an iteration, and it is churning, but it is getting on set, and it is making your own stuff. So like, getting the experience right away and not thinking that it's just going to magically happen later, and taking action on the immediate level of, all right, let's go. Let's write a script and let's go. Let's do it now. Let's listen to Justin O'Donnell and, tap into local college scenes. It's easy enough to make those connections in social media, and if you don't know how to, take Brian Pistone's course, because it's a really easy, couple things that you can try that maybe you haven't even thought of. So recruit.net is what I would recommend to you. It searches the LinkedIn database. You don't have to have a LinkedIn profile to like get access to the information using search modifiers. So it's like a nice interface. It gives you prompting on like what keywords to use. Things like location, industry, college year graduation is one of them. Actually, I don't know if it's in there, but that's one of mine that I kind of give in the notes for the course. But it's could you find somebody that's going to Montclair that's in the currently in the program? Could you find 10 people and just bust out emails? So, that I think is the the way to go right now for folks who are going on to a film degree that maybe they don't have the strongest portfolio or the strongest reel. Do the as soon as you get your license, drives and get up there. Talk to your parents, get the approval from them, but basically start college a little earlier by doing that. Getting on set as much as you can. So that's great. That's a gold nugget right there. I think that's great. Pre-college interning.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, honestly, before I was suggesting after high school graduation and do that as an alternative to college. But I mean, if high schoolers are able to go out and get that experience before they graduate high school, you would be very much ahead of the game if you've already been on set, for sure.
and that people would say, yeah, sure, we need you. Come on out.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen many desperate producers and directors out there.
So, in this line of work, it is one of those things. Like, you can totally get the experience ahead of time, and in many lines of work. So, like, that's what I'm exploring right now. I want to start to like branch into all the different fields, and I'm looking to hopefully bring on students and just let's do it. Let's see what's out there and like start making sense of the transition from high school to career. Or just lack of clarity to career with this mentor connection technique. Like, go find somebody who's doing it and say, yo, do you need help? Cool. So that's in a nutshell for, what, this whole thing is about. And I really appreciate you sharing, your transition story that's still in the works. I think I want to shift into the questions now. So we're about 30 minutes into the discussion. So what I like to do is kind of like maybe model for somebody who might be doing this type of like interview. This is their first time on Skype, and they're calling somebody in the industry. Maybe they're a little nervous. I don't know. So when somebody jumps on a call, you have a list of questions in front of you. You click the record button on Skype, and you're off to the races. And I'm still working on tightening the questions and the order. So if you do start getting into this type of like reaching out to mentors and how you adjust your question set, I would love if you would like leave feedback, either in a comment here or within the course. I'll send you the link to the course as soon as it's published. Should be up there, a couple hours after we're done the conversation. So it's way longer than 15 minutes, but my recommendation is to reach out to people for a 15-minute conversation. Very simple message. Most people will get back to you, and if not, broaden your list, and it's a numbers
going.
And then
I know.
but most people will get back to you. And then from there, you schedule 1 or 2 emails. All right, you call exactly on the time that you scheduled. You give them, 2 options, A or B, and they say, all right, one of those, you call exactly on time, and here we are. We're having this chat. So, Justin, thank you so much for having a chat with me about what you got going on with your career. What do you recommend for training for somebody who wants to do what you want to do, or what you're doing in the industry? So I know that you're in kind of like a transitory position. So if you want, you can speak on both sides of that.
I mean, with regards to filmmaking, I partially already covered that. The big thing is just to get on set, because I mean, even after spending 4 years in your classes and in your program, the very first student set that I went on to the summer before my freshman year of college, I still learned so much. Even just like the minute things, like like the slang for tripod that exists on set.
Right.
We were in the woods, in the Pine Barrens filming a short film, and the director of photography asked me to go find some sticks or go get the sticks. And I'm like, well, like what kind? Like how long?
Fire.
And he's like, the tripod. And I was like, oh. And yeah, I knew from there that there was a lot that I did not actually know, even though I felt pretty confident in my own skills at the time. So it was definitely like a brave new world. And so that would be my first suggestion, is get on set as soon as you can. The sooner before you, if you're going into film school, the sooner you do before film school, the better. Or if you plan on just jumping straight into it, just, do it as soon as possible. Because you're going to not only learn a lot of jargon and terminology, but you're also going to become really good at quickly solving problems. And it's always going to be a unique problem every day. Like, we don't have enough outlets to plug in this light, or, we need to be able to hang a 40-pound light from this drop ceiling, and there's no way we're going to be able to do it without the ceiling collapsing. Like crazy stuff like that.
C-stands.
Those are really, yeah, exactly. Those are not really skills that you're going to be able to, look up on the internet or learn from some sort of class or anything like that. And unfortunately, I don't even think you would learn a lot. You would really obtain a lot of those skills even from speaking from mentors. So as a mentor in that regard, I'd say it's all about the experience you get. But the second part of it really is, unfortunately, with filmmaking, it really is about who you know and not what you know. Because once you're competent on set, the biggest part of your job really is going to be knowing where your next job is going to come from. It's definitely a big challenge. And honestly, it was something that was kind of difficult for me, because that numbers game can be a little hard to play sometimes, between cold calling folks and sending messages and asking people not only to be on your set, but asking, if they have any work, or, if they have any projects coming up, or things of that nature. So I guess I'd say you are going to you're going to make a lot of connections on set. So when you start off, you're probably going to be working a pretty low position on set. You might be a PA, you might be a second AC, or, one of many grips. And I would say try to turn to your department head whenever you can for advice, so long as you're not getting in their way, and really try and develop a relationship between them. Because when you're first starting off, if you know many department heads, a lot of gaffers, a lot of key grips, a lot of directors of photography, they're likely going to either get you your next job, or they might know a UPM, a unit production manager, who's going to get you your next job. So that's something that I would definitely tell people to work on. You have to ride this weird balance between, getting a job done, but also making yourself making yourself friendly and outgoing enough on set where people are going to want to work with you again. You gotta definitely make a large effort to be likable, unfortunately. That's definitely something that I wasn't as prepared for as I thought. I very much focused on the physical and technical skills of filmmaking, and the staying on schedule and being efficient and getting things done quickly. But I definitely felt like I could have done more to network and get to know folks on set a bit more, because it may have made finding crew members and getting on more sets and finding commercial work a little bit more easy.
Yeah.
So I would definitely advise students to be thinking about that when they are getting on set, for sure.
That's huge.
So long as you're not getting in the way of production.
Yeah. You know, there is that. You got to be cool, and you got to be able to throw down. You got to be able to, you know, put up. So, you know, I have a lot of indie and a lot of commercial experience. I didn't really do much, you know, high-end feature work. I did a couple of feature-length films. I got to mix one in surround, but it was all like post-production stuff where we're sitting in our studio and not like and networking. People, like, I was in a position where I was going and trying to find work, though. So I was you know, doing all of this, you know, the cold calling and the networking. What I don't think filmmakers are prepared for is the amount that you have to do, and the numbers of it all. And maybe I need to start making more graphics from that, because I think, you know, I'm into real estate as well. You know, the sales and marketing side of real estate, like, to have a good day, you got to be making 60 phone calls. 60. Try to make 60 phone calls in a day and see how long it takes for you to work up to that number. 60 calls a day, and you will be successful. You can do six-figure monthly if you're making 60 phone calls a day with clients, you know, potential purchases. And then, you know, if you're operating a call center, that number is astronomical. Like cold calling, you have like the ability to like multi-dial. You're just kind of, you know, and you have to train people and do that kind of thing. From doing that business, I would recommend everybody, you know, in high school, get a sales job, some kind of job where you have to talk to people and try to sell them something, you know, even if it's retail. But you know, the amount of stuff that I learned personally translates to like next level, so many things. It's you know, having the ability to, when you feel uncomfortable, still perform at high levels of, you know, I'm still looking at this number. Did I hit this number? Because you know, there's all kinds of techniques. You take two little jars and you put a paper clip from one to the other, and you look at and you just go. You just keep going. So that's not easy to hear, though, from somebody who's like, I just want to make film.
Yeah, that really was the attitude when I was around from a lot of the people who were creating stuff, even before I was super involved with it. It was, you know, it's a very casual environment. People just want to make stuff. And Shawnee TV did a really great job of enabling people to do just that. But after Shawnee TV, really was a rude awakening to see how much work is involved getting to that point.
You know, there's so much planning in the film world. In all, I guess live, you know, the live environment is different. But you know, when you're, you know, crafting a message and getting everything to script, and then all the planning, like you said, that goes in everything.
It's most of the work when you're producing and on set for your project. It's 85% of the work for sure is done beforehand.
I mean,
calling, meetings.
Like Hitchcock considered the film was like in the storyboarding, and you know, this is the work. This is it. This is where the film is made, and then just putting people on set and like telling them what to do, and you know, assembling everything. You know, that's like the aftermath of a good executed plan. So, you know. All right, next question. So
yes. Or did you want me to touch a little bit more on the urban planning side of things? Because we sort of made that
what do you got?
I mentioned earlier that you know, as a college student, I sort of became more aware about you know, contemporary issues, and it sort of coincided with me discovering a new site that I actually enjoyed, called Curbed. They write about architecture, they write about interior design, but they also write about urban planning and civic issues affecting transportation, and affordable housing and issues like gentrification and things of that nature. And I don't know, I guess what I wanted to pull from that was, even despite all of the film work that I was busy with and, working a day job and sort of balancing, developing all of my skills, doing your homework and sort of expanding your horizons by, reading or keeping up to date on current events in the world was definitely an important factor towards me, sort of deciding to want to go in this direction. It definitely helped because it's, not something I would have considered otherwise if I wasn't just, finding new places to read the news. Something as simple as that was just, I don't know. I'm not sure where I was going with that.
That's training. So, one of my big recommendations to students, to what I've been writing, throughout the development of this course is, cool curation is what I'm calling it. Curation takes it's work. You have to seek. Mm-hmm. You have to pull the nuggets out of very intelligent pieces of either literature or podcasts or websites or whatever feeds that you're on. There's so much noise out there, and to be able to get to the signal and really pull out that training. So how do I you can get, like you said, you can get, there's so many angles to play for free training to get your 85% of the way there. And then I'm a big fan of paid training too. So college, I say go to college once you know it's the right thing. I'm an investor. If the numbers make sense, if we got to pay here, but the return is way up here, then there is no emotion in making the decision. And until you start lumping down money and taking hits here and there of decisions that you're making and being able to look back on it, you just don't have enough experience with it yet until you make a couple of those decisions. So, getting through the training side of reading books, listening to podcasts, finding things that you're inspired by, but not just sitting and consuming, you have to start doing it. So things like just the written word, write it down, start a journal. And every single day, write the notes of your life in it of here's all the things that I'm learning. Here's what I still need to work on. I'm a big fan of very short goal type things in handwriting on a piece of paper. I'm
bullet journaling.
Yeah, and just crossing things off as you get through the punch list of things that you have to accomplish. But that's training to me. So we're still on question one, by the way.
Sorry to draw this out.
I think it's, find those mentors, find the people that are inspiring you, find the feeds that are inspiring you, find the podcasts, the books, the websites that inspire you, and participate. You got to take that knowledge, and you got to learn how you learn best. And auditory, I love listening to long format. This exactly what we're doing right now. I learn best by talking through. So when I teach, I'm learning. When I'm teaching people how to do something, when we have conversations like this is where some of the deeper learning happens. You're kind of talking through some, especially the tough stuff in life. What we're talking about is kind of tough stuff. Big career change, big dollar amounts that you had to plunk down to get to this point to make that understanding. Personally, I've had a couple big, crazy, life things. My stepfather, he just had a massive stroke back in October, and God bless him, he's alive, but he's 65, and his life changed dramatically. And we've had a couple, deaths in the family and that sort of thing, but life hits you, and then you start to put all these things into realization, and being present with the ones that you love, and then I want to do something for them, and I want to do something that's just right, that's just true, and that helps people. And, combining all that, I think, is what career and vocation is to me. So, like, how do you share that? I feel like this conversation over and over again, and putting it out there, and hopefully people, tune in, and, the more people that start to try to participate in this, let's go talk to people who, like, I'm going to start doing, like, I'm currently doing my own, mentor search. So I'm like reaching out very high level. I'm trying, like, I don't know if you ever heard of Ben Hardy. He's like the #1 writer on Medium. Ben,
I think I may have. Yeah.
I hope you're listening to this episode. I'm scheduling with him for something in September. So, that would be a huge opportunity. He's my mentor. I read all the stuff, all of it. I read his books, or a book. He's got another one coming out soon. Bought his courses. But yeah, buy books, jump into training. Like, if the numbers make sense, even if it's a dude on the internet, jump into training. Like, you're going to learn next level things. There is value there. So, all right, we're moving on.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask, like, it's 2 questions, but I'm just going to ask them both.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would recommend me to do, or anything you would recommend me not to do?
I would advise that people probably do a lot of the things that I've already mentioned. If you have that entrepreneurial mindset, and if you're really excited and motivated about film, surround yourself with people who feel the same way. And I think you'll already find yourself in a good spot, because if you do, you already have that network that you need. You already have your collaborators who you're going to, be working with on set. And hopefully they will also have people that they know that you don't know, maybe are a bit more experienced and might be able to take you under their wing, and might have some commercial work for you. That happened to me. I met a bunch of people in my freshman year who brought me on some music videos, on some lookbook shoots, and they were definitely like a tremendously good experience for me, and definitely helped me to raise my confidence more as a filmmaker. But I mean, they also helped to ingrain the things that I was learning on set. It legitimized things a bit, because student sets they feel like student sets, but you'll go out and find that they very much are like the real deal. And from then on, you just continue networking from there. That would be my biggest recommendation. And, at that time, I wish that I had worked a little bit harder to get people's contacts or people's emails or cards and whatnot. So that would be my recommendation. What I wouldn't recommend, I guess I would say be mindful. If you're in a producing role in film school, if that's what your program does, where you need to produce the project that you write, try to constrict your vision. It's very easy for you to get excited about some visual effect or some specific kind of scene or message or motif or whatever that you want to get across. And it can be very easy for you to rack up a bill for yourself and create very high budgets for yourself that, might not be an ideal financial situation for a college student, and might just lead to more stress down the line as you try to coordinate, hiring non-student professionals to come and work on your set to do like prosthetics or blood effects or fire or anything like that. I would say to just watch out for those things, and try to write with what you have, with what locations you have, what people who can provide resources to you easily, at least when you're first starting off as a producer who's making their own content, for sure.
Yeah, great advice. And I know we're going to be a little bit redundant on some of these, but do you have any advice for getting internships and meaningful work even at the high school level, or maybe even at the college level?
Mm-hmm. I'm. This might just be my opinion, but I do feel that a lot of independent production houses or creative groups usually won't be willing to take on too many people who might still be at the high school age. But that isn't to say that there are still good opportunities for experience for high schoolers. I remember back when I was in Shawnee TV, I believe there were some internships from NBC and CBS that they were like summer programs, I think.
Yeah, there were.
That students were able to pick up and go out and, do work outside of the classroom. I don't think that kind of stuff is inconsequential, and I do think it definitely would be of value to people who are still in high school. To people, I mean, if you do want to try it and, get taken under the wing of someone who works in like a independent production house or something like that, I definitely say to just work on your portfolio. Definitely not. It's not only about producing something that looks good, but it's also about sort of having it's not just about the quality of your work, but it's also about what your work sort of represent with regards to what kind of work you can get done. So for example, say you want to be an editor and you want to go work for an editor at a production house as like an assistant or an intern or something like that. Your portfolio would be stronger if you had more than just short films that you worked on in college, or in high school. If you did some freelance work, where if you worked on, a commercial or a web video for somebody, or even like a music video that you produced for a friend or, somebody that even stuff like that can help when you're cold calling and trying your best to network with folks, because I firmly believe that helps with the kind of work that a lot of those places try to take on. Because, they don't just do commercials. They don't just do short films. They could do all sorts of crazy things like digital signage and 3D installation art and web campaigns and web series and things. And I do believe that they are looking, if you're trying to make your resume look stronger and your portfolio look stronger, diversifying in that regard would definitely be helpful.
Yeah.
Did I lose you there for a second? Or?
No, I'm in.
Okay.
Here. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Yes, yeah.
Cool.
Oh, it may have been my AirPods losing battery. Sorry about that.
We're gonna try to hustle. So
Okay.
How about your experience with like scholarships or financing college tuition?
With regards to scholarships, I'm gonna say it is very easy to let college get in the way of being proactive with those things, especially if you're working in a profession like filmmaking. Between the hustle involved with that and your classes and your day job, probably, it can be very hard to take the time out to look for scholarships and to apply to those sorts of things. So I would try to stress to anybody who's beginning to go into college that they should maybe try and dedicate time, I guess, to continue to look at scholarships, because it's very easy. I've seen it get brushed to the wayside by probably 95 to 99% of college students.
That I think is the technique. So
yeah,
and it's for a lot of this stuff. So like making time to connect with the scholarships and do the research, making time to write the essay or create the video to and then submit it. But we also see the same thing in the work that we do. Sometimes we have this stuff that's cut and it's done and it's in the can, and then there's the whole marketing and festival circuit side of that type of work too, that you have to dedicate yourself, make the time, and like apply. And it's just a time, like it's a mindset thing and a commitment, and it's a scheduling thing too, and you have to like prioritize and make the time. I had a really nice conversation with Leah Jinian, and her method was Saturdays. Everybody wants to like chill and like sleep in and like be with friends, or whatever, go to lunch or whatever it is, but you peg Saturday, that's the day. I'm going to do
a full day.
To get in there, and even if it's not a full day, you do 3 hours every Saturday. Where would you be? I think that looking for scholarships at the high school level, it's a smart thing, because
it was definitely easier then, I will say. Sorry to interrupt.
You get into
I think it's easier for high schoolers to be proactive than college students with regards to scholarships.
Yeah. How about best networking tip for college?
If you're not within like a specialized art program, like filmmaking programs usually are, there are usually a lot of special events specifically for what you're probably doing. I know at least at Montclair State University, pretty much every college within the university, so like the College of Sciences, the School of Business, they all had their own networking events and career fair events, usually every semester. So if you're in one of those fields, obviously I would stress that you go out and do that right away. But if you are in a slightly more niche field like filmmaking or graphic design or something in the arts, usually there are less of those opportunities available to you. And at that point, I would say it really is more about, the connections that you're making every day, whether it's on set or, if you're working in one of the other arts like graphic design, it's about the clients that you work with, or, your collaborators and the clients that they work with.
Yeah. Yeah, the day-to-day, who you're with is very important. The people you surround yourself with is very, very important. I can't stress that enough. And I think that if you're in the room with people that are inspiring you, and you're like one of the top in the room, then you keep finding new rooms that inspire you. I'll just say that my gigs were through networking, word of mouth, and my teaching gig was from a career, like a networking day. So it was like a job fair for teachers, and this high school district was there, and being a video production teacher is a very niche thing, and they needed one. So it was just you go to networking events. How about best college success?
I guess this is going to sound weird, but honestly, it was just producing films. Being able to take a project from this small idea in your head to expanding it to, a binder full of pre-production forms and connections and contracts and people and connecting with the State Department and maintaining good relationships with location owners and holding auditions and all the costs involved, making meals and actually making the film on top of all of that, and going through the process of, trying to figure out the creative problems on set of, getting the look that you want, and, I don't want to say actualizing, I don't think that's the right word, but like fully realizing your skills on top of all of those things. It really feels like a momentous achievement by the time that production is done, before you even start editing it. It really was like an incredibly surreal feeling, having, at the end of a set, having finished everything up and finally wrapping things. it was a really like rewarding feeling, I guess. Being able to go and build this network of collaborators, and this network of people who all, shared the same vision, and ended up making it a thing at the end of the day. It's really, really cool. And I think it's a skill set that will follow me no matter what career I go into. That ability to manage and organize and collaborate on that scale.
Yeah. Bringing a big group of people together for a community, and then a product on the end. I think that it's kind of where you're going with the urban planning thing too. I think the development of community and helping solve a big problem. It's an admirable thing. I'm interested to see how that works out. How about college? Like worst college mistake?
Just not really networking enough and not really working to develop acquaintanceship and relationships with a lot of the people in my program. I definitely feel like I could have not only benefited from it, in the actual production aspect of it, but I think maybe honestly I'd probably be more comfortable with the idea of working a gig career if maybe I had that stronger network right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so honestly that would be the biggest thing that I would stress, and it's the thing that I definitely wish I could have maybe worked on a bit more. Yeah.
I agree. And I had a similar experience, Justin. Like when I was in school, I was kind of disenfranchised with the crews that we were running with. I had a couple really great short experiences, and it didn't really turn into anything post college. Where I really took off was developing networking connections in the professional world outside of the school. So I think that would probably be one of my advice pieces for people in the college world is you get into this bubble and you get into this situation where you're with these people. Yeah, you got great facilities and equipment and you got great instruction, but you can just like not see beyond those walls so easily. Even if you're traveling all over the place with like crewing, but to understand what's going on in maybe like local markets, like where's the hot market? Like, is it Atlanta right now still? I know that was a big film market, past couple years. Philly market is, okay. The New York is probably a little bit better than, but do you have to travel out to LA? Like what are your thoughts on that?
I do know that a good handful of folks who could go to LA in my graduating class and some of the surrounding ones did go to LA. As far as I know, I don't really know anybody that went down to Georgia, honestly. Not to say that there isn't work down there. I'm sure there is. But honestly, if you have the ability to go, I would probably suggest you try it. From everyone that I've heard that's either there now and trying to hustle, or people who maybe went over for a trip and briefly worked there for a couple of weeks, all say that the work pretty much grew on trees there.
That's it.
I wouldn't say is the experience in New York. There's definitely work in New York, but it isn't quite like that.
Yeah. Got better light out. You got better light out there too.
Oh yeah. Nice natural light, good golden hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of that is a part of the reason why I'm not in LA right now is sort of just like a personal thing. Just because I met my boyfriend, who I've been with for 4.5 years now in college, and I'm currently living with. And at the moment, I just wouldn't really want to have to shelf that relationship to go and make that move all the way out to California, where I don't really know anybody except one person.
Right. Right.
In the hopes of finding work. I mean, if you have the ability to do that and you're comfortable doing it, I would recommend it. But at the same time, it's not for everybody, for sure.
Yeah. And I have a similar experience story. When I kind of went through my career transition, I was in college still. Like I said earlier, I wanted to be an architect, and I went to a mechanical engineering program, and it wasn't anything that was interesting to me. And at that point, 2 semesters in, I was very established with, a girlfriend. I was in a fraternity. It was like, you have this social world, and then to leave that to go pursue something that is unknown. There, sometimes you stay put. And we talked to Clayton Morris of Fox and Friends, and he kind of had. It was him and his buddy. They just graduated from a film program. Do I stay or do I go moment? And he went, buddy stayed, and Clayton's Clayton. And then the buddy is still kind of doing the thing. And in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like the same. Like could things be different? Maybe, but I agree that you do what's right. You stick by the people that where you have your roots, and you develop the relationship in the family environment, and I ultimately that's why we're working. We're trying to find that perfect balance of the family life with the sustainability from the dollars and cents coming
from a career
from your work.
At the end of the day, it's a matter of priorities. I don't think either choice is the best choice. It really comes down to, what you value and, what's more important. Because I do think there are people out there that would do that. They would make the jump to LA, and, there's more power to them for sure.
Yeah, it's that action thing. It's that if you have that uncomfortable feeling and you push the button, now you're on. And now you got to perform, burn the boats kind of. But I think that there's a ton of success stories there, and it's easy to find those success stories. It happens all the time. I think it's equally as easy to find the grit stories of the grind it out. I stayed and I worked it out, and then I ultimately got to my true center of What's the David Brooks quote? What's something that feels right to the center of your being? I think that is a lot of ways what ends up working out in life. Period. So as long as you're active on it and keep working ahead. So I can't wait to hear stories of urban planning, because it's right in line with my architecture passion. And I still follow architecture blogs, and I'm kind of thinking about, I got to talk to Misty about this, but start doing the whole mentor thing and talking to architects and finding out, retroactively I can kind of get to where
you're already in real estate, so.
Yeah, we get to kind of redesign
cousins,
and flip things. Yeah, we're kind of taking over, and beautifying properties that need a lift, and holding rentals. Which, by the way, I have some stuff on my website, but if you're looking for stability, buying and renovating, like buying low and renovating something that you can live in and then turn into a rental and move on. Even like I love the duplex angle. If I could do it all over again, buying a duplex in a college town, living in one side and having the other one rented, and kind of like living rent free, and then walking away from college with a duplex, that's brilliant. And the people who can put something like that together, they're in good shape too. But you can't go wrong with a string of rentals. So just throwing that out there. If you ever have any questions about that, I could certainly throw you some insight from the experiences that we've been having. But let's pivot a little bit further here. So how has, I love asking these questions like positive and negative. Here's another kind of like negative angle, and this comes from Tim Ferriss. He's got a book, Tribe of Mentors. How has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
I'm not sure if this is a wonderful example, but I'll give it anyway.
Okay.
For the project I had to produce my junior year, I had a film that had two characters trying to excavate the grave of a long dead werewolf to destroy its skull to like lift a curse. And I needed to find a graveyard that would be willing to let me dig up a section of their land, obviously where there's no graves, so that we could fake it but still have it look like a graveyard. So I ended up cold calling and emailing a couple different local cemeteries, and did not hear back from any of them, as you would expect. I wasn't really expecting any positive responses. And from speaking to my assistant director told me that there is a old cemetery, a very small one, on the outskirts of a local park in her town in Cedar Grove, like 5 minutes from the campus. So I end up emailing the owner, and the owner says, "Yeah, sure, that'd be great, but because we're a part of a local park, as a part of the township, you're going to have to go down to the town hall and get permission from them." So I go down and I fill out a filming permit application, and the police chief ends up calling me. I explain what happens in the film, and I assure him that we're not going to be doing anything near the graves or anything like that, and we would obviously be very respectful to the land. And he's totally on board, and he says sure. And he says that he needs to pass it along to, I believe it was the head of the town council who would need to approve the permit. So I get a call back like 4 hours later notifying me that, of course, this person said no, because he believed it would be disrespectful to the land and shouldn't be doing that. And so I relay this information back to my assistant director, who is essentially acting as my assistant unit production manager at this point, because we're a week away from production and we still need this location. And she notifies me that the police chief is her neighbor. And so the both of us end up giving him a call back, and we're like, would it be okay if we used your joint backyard as a graveyard for this scene? And he says yes, and he signs on board, because they have like a backyard where they don't have a fence between it, and it's a large expanse right in front of a forest. And he says yes. So I managed to get my production designer to rent a handful of fake graves, and we were able to successfully make this area right in front of a forest. It's like a flat clearing right in front of a forest, look just about like the very back of a cemetery. And it was a very close call, and it wasn't really something I was expecting, where we would be able to get the permission of this police chief but not of these other people at the civic level. But we're ended up able to sort of utilize that short connection that we made anyway.
Huh.
So not a great example, but it's the only thing that comes to mind right now.
I think it's a problem-solving situation, and
yeah.
a numbers game. So you gotta get on the horn, you gotta scramble, and you gotta find a way to get what you need in order to get over the next goal.
Yeah, it really was like a matter of scrambling and cold calling, and it was, I guess, one example of what you sort of encounter on a set, sort of being able to quickly solve problems and not having any idea what those problems are going to be until they're a problem. Yeah.
Well, I think that it takes a special kind of problem solver in especially the indie film environment. But filmmakers, they come up with unique ways to have these just creative new worlds, and I'm amazed at how the technology evolves as well, and all the way down to the cell phone in your pocket nowadays that we're doing a pretty good amount of work on in class that we didn't used to do as much. So I just think that if you're going for a degree in film, being resourceful is right up there, and I think with today's call we can really take away that there is you got to be flying with people and networking and just doing good work along the way and doing projects that you believe in. I guess our final question: what would you say to someone who aspires to have a career in film?
I guess I would, to sort of summarize everything I've discussed already, I would tell somebody to try to get on set as soon as possible. Try to find people who, preferably students or people, in your age group or near your level of experience, who, are working and are excited about something, and get on set, get to know them, surround yourself with people, have an open mind, be prepared to learn a lot, and sort of familiarize yourself with the set culture and all the set written and unwritten rules, and just try and get ahead of the game as much as possible. Just keep doing it, and if you want to produce your own work on it after you've been on set for a bit, because you'll know how to run your own set at that point. You'll know who to hire for what, and you can expect what kind of problems might come up from a producer's perspective.
Huh. I think that's brilliant, and that really does summarize everything that we discussed tonight. And I want to thank you for taking a big chunk of time out of your night. And I think that this is something that it's going to help folks who are pursuing a film degree to wake up to some of the real variables. There are some things that aren't the glitz and the glamour, that if you have the diligence and like carve out the time to work on yourself in certain ways that may not be the most fun, but you're still you have a big majority of your time devoted to creative fun and the craft, and then a good devotion of time for the networking, the numbers game type of thing, the finding of internships, the finding of scholarships, the finding of mentors out there that can really point you in the right direction before you're making decisions. I think that that's the message that I think students need to hear. How can you convince yourself to get on that level? The sooner the better, because you get faced with these big life decisions that it's an investment. It's an investment opportunity. So don't walk fearfully into that, or walk without the due diligence, without the understanding of like what it's going to take in order to earn the return on that investment of your time and your dollars to achieve that career that you're passionate about, and that helps people. I think that overall there is that connection with society You have to provide value. If you provide value to enough people, if enough people what they want, you're going to get what you want. Ultimately, I think that was a Zig Ziglar thing. So, yeah, Justin, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time tonight. Any final parting words?
I guess what I would say, to anybody thinking about going into filmmaking, if you're excited about it, that's awesome. That's like the number one thing that you need to keep coming back to no matter what happens. If it's what you enjoy, then, kick ass and, keep having fun doing it. And if things change, if time goes on and it turns out maybe you don't love it as much as you used to, or maybe it's not right for you, it's important to sort of know what's going to draw you towards the next thing. It's a good idea to have a grip on what your values are, and what you would like to make, or what you would like to change or revise or reform or have an impact on, and start doing the work to start moving in that direction. I feel that that's what I'm doing right now. And, I'm hoping that I find the next thing that's going to, have me be as excited and driven as I was before. Yeah.
Well, I think you're on the right track. I'm looking forward to seeing your work, and thanks again, Justin.
No problem.
I'm inviting you to a workshop where you work on you. Get career clarity by searching LinkedIn and other databases with the keywords used in your field, and work to connect with the best people in the world, people who are doing the thing that you want to do. That will bring career clarity. Head over to claritydojo.com and take the free course called Career Clarity. You'll get the latest research techniques, examples, and it takes all of the guesswork out of which questions to ask in order to get the best insight. Get clarity and take action today.